You guys are watching NFL Daily by Chat Sports. I am Tom Downey, here once again with a live mailbag, answering any and all questions that come in as part of our live NFL Daily shows. First up from True Allure, which I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, again, I'm really sorry about that. Do you think the Panthers, or do you think Jimmy G can be traded to the Panthers? I think that makes the most sense. Like, if I were Carolina and I am in a position where I have to win right now to save my job. If I don't make the playoffs or if I don't win like 8 games, I'm out of here. I ain't sticking around. I think Jimmy G is your best bet. Is it an ideal bet? No, not really. But the picks don't matter to me that much, as you're not going to have to go to 6. I would take a tackle at 6, and I would go trade for Jimmy Garoppolo and try to win some games right now and then kick the can down the road for finding a new French QB. It's not a great organizational strategy, but for my job, it's a good plan. From Niner Faithful, who's the best safety the Niners can draft at 61? I think it's Jaquan Brisker or Jalen Petrie. Also, would Cole Strange be a good replacement for Alex Mack? I like Cole Strange a lot. I think he's a very good football player. I think a day 2-ish pick makes a lot of sense for where he should end up going. As for the safety position, I think it makes sense. I think you've got 2 good names on there. I would wonder if Petrie is off the board just a little bit sooner than Brisker. I would say maybe if those guys are gone, you want to go with a Nick Cross, or I like Kirby Joseph a lot. I think best safety they could realistically draft is probably Petrie and then Brisker in the end. From Roy Williams, a safety, by the way, here asking about safeties. Could Drake London fall to number 24? I would be surprised. As long as the medicals check out, I think he's going to end up going pretty early in the 2022 NFL draft. I think he's off the board top 20-ish in the end. As for Troy Polamalu's nephew, that's Isaiah Polamalu. I think I got that last name correctly. I kind of think he's going to end up being a UDFA. He tested fine-ish, but the production was never that great outside of 2019 for USC, so I think he's more of an undrafted guy. I didn't like him that much in coverage in the end. Camper 45, any juice the Deebo to the Dolphins trade rumors? I've seen them out. There are Dolphins channels covered it too, of course. I don't think so. Then if the Dolphins didn't have Jalen Waddle and if they didn't already trade for Tyreek Hill, sure, maybe, but you've made Tyreek Hill the highest paid receiver in the NFL. Are you going to throw $60 million and a first-round pick at 2 receivers per year? Because that's what you're doing with Waddle. I don't think so. Deebo wants to be the highest paid receiver in the NFL. The Dolphins are light on draft picks right now. If he does get dealt, I think it's somewhere else. And if I were the Niners, I would just pay him. He's an awesome player, and I generally want to keep my awesome football players. When it comes to trades, there's been a lot more than usual in terms of big-name guys this year. So I want you to the comments section and predict who's next. Name a player, could be a big name or a small name, like the Jimmy G one we had earlier. Name a player who you think gets traded this offseason. This is a pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad break comes, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. From James Heiner, who do you think the Texans choose at number 3? Neil, Ekwonu, KT, or Sauce? I assume in this case that we have Trayvon Walker, Hudson off the board in some order. That's fine with me. I'm going to go Ekwonu, Thibodeau, Neal, Gardner in that order. I think that's a good list of 4, and I wouldn't be stunned if any of the 4 went. I would expect all 4 go in the top 8 or so. Ekwonu is my guess right now. Maybe Neal, if I like him better. I don't have a great feel for what Houston's going to do. They're a bit of a weird team. So I think you've got the 4 narrowed down pretty well. I think they'll go tackle in round 1. XHXNE, will the Eagles take a receiver round 1? I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I think they've got a lot of good options as it relates to guys who could be on the board. I would love Drake London there. Someone asked about him earlier. I think that's a great fit. Get a big body receiver on the outside to pair with Devonta Smith. That sounds awesome to me. I think they could go off-type, go linebacker. Corner makes sense. A trench player is always a valid pick, but I know they've missed in the past at receiver early round. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Jalen Reagor. I like London's fit in Philadelphia quite a bit. NFL Daily is now also on Rumble. We have free and uncensored content for you guys. There's also sports, news, politics, tech and business from other video people on that platform. We're trying to grow the platforms you guys use. So if you're on Rumble, give us a follow, rumble.com/NFL Daily. And if you're not, go support us so we can dominate that video platform as well. From Robert Bruce, hello Jack, hello Tom. Will the Patriots go after a number one wideout even with the addition of Devontae Parker, please? I don't think they go receiver early. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think Parker's more of a number two, which they don't have that true dominant number one guy. Haven't since, if you exclude slot, since Randy Moss left. So I think they're going to look corner. I think they're going to look maybe guard again, maybe linebacker. I think receiver is still a top 5 need, but I'm not sure if they're going to commit to that position in round 1. From Lines, how do you feel about Jalen Tolbert or Romeo Doubs for the Cowboys? I like Tolbert a lot more. I think that's if the board falls the wrong way at receiver, I could see Tolbert being the best available one in round 2. I didn't love Doubs as much as I thought he was going to. I was a little bit whelmed by his overall play. I've got a 4th round grade on him, actually. So I got a second. Let me double check that. A second on Tolbert. Maybe it was a 2-3. I'll get it checked out here. I thought Tolbert was a more impactful, steadier, and I would argue higher upside player than Doubs, who I like, but more in the 4th round. It was actually a 2-3 grade from Tolbert for me. From Brokov, Khalil Shakir, Kyle Phillips or Wan'Dale Robinson. 3 receivers who probably go 3rd round or 4th round. So Khalil Shakir is the wide receiver out of Boise. I've got a 4th round grade on him. I've got a very similar grade for Wan'Dale Robinson out of Kentucky. Both those guys are slots. They're undersized. And the same is true of Kyle Phillips, who is the 3rd for me on this list. But I've got, I always forget that he spells it with 1 L when I try to find him. I always get it wrong. 4th on him as well. Shakir and Robinson are higher on that board. I haven't stacked everyone, but I know my grades from that standpoint. So Khalil Shakir, Robinson, then Kyle Phillips. If you want more coverage on everything going on around the NFL, hit that big red button and subscribe. Not surprised to see a lot of draft questions right now. The draft is less than 2 weeks away. Hell, it's about a week away at this point. And I'm still cranking through my big board so we know what we're talking about come draft time, baby. If you haven't already, subscribe for the best YouTube coverage on the NFL at youtube.com/chatsportstv. From ACB Collects, Chargers go offensive tackle, offensive guard, DT, corner, or linebacker in round 1. I think they would prefer to go offensive tackle. I just don't know if Penning or Cross are there for you. And I think they prefer Penning because he can play on the right side more than I think Cross ideally can. Zion Johnson could be the pick there at guard. If Jordan Davis is there, I think they'll think about it, but they've also added a bunch of DTs already this year. I don't expect a corner, but hey, you could use depth. Maybe you're not sold on Michael Davis. Linebacker, which typically isn't the route Brandon Staley likes to go. Devin Lone would be a good pick. So I'm going to bet offensive line. I think those are good areas to watch team need-wise. From Oh Boy, if the Commanders trade Terry McLaurin, who could get him? First answer is yes. Second answer is lots of teams. The Jets have been linked to every receiver who has been on the trade block this year. They've gone over so far. They would love to get Scary Terry, I promise you. Green Bay wanted to pay allegedly Devonte Adams. They make sense there. The Chiefs I want to mention, but they kind of added some guys, so I'm not going to assume that that goes down. How about 2 NFC South teams that need receiver help? The Saints and the Falcons. Saints have 2 first-round picks. That makes them a very prime candidate if they just want to give one of them up for Scary Terry. So when it comes to McLaurin, believe me dealt. Make your predictions for me in the comments. Why for yes and for no? Will the Commanders trade away Terry McLaurin? Untouchable Raider 1960. Could the Raiders trade up into the early 2nd to get Devonte Wyatt? I've seen weird rumors he could go number 1 overall. So I think you're merging Devonte Wyatt, the defensive tackle from Georgia, and Trayvon Walker, the edge rusher out of Georgia. Walker's been linked to round 1. No one thinks Wyatt's going to. I think you're just kind of mixing up those guys. So if you're trying to get up there into the early parts of round 2, you could put together your entire draft class of what you have left, your third, your fourth, your 2 fifths, and your 7th round pick, and it gets you into roughly the back end of round 2, just in the top 60. So if you want to get early round 2, you got to move future draft assets. Don't get your hopes up for that. From Clinton Bach, a $5 super chat. Thank you, Clinton. Hey, Tom, how do you feel about Cade York in the 5th round of Dallas? Sure, whatever. They're going to I bet the Cowboys go kicker in the 5th round. I also know that the hit rate for kickers is not what you would expect. Like, if you promise me Evan McPherson, cool, let's ride. The Bengals spent back-to-back premium picks on a kicker, relatively premium picks, like in terms of day 3 guys, and was 50% average. It could be Roberto Aguayo. I think the UDFA kicker you find is just as good as the draft pick kicker. So you have 4 fifths. If you want to spend one, okay, sure, fine. I think Cade York is the best one, probably. Hope he's Evan McPherson, but I would just rather take a UDFA guy or a 6th round pick. But I know that they need a kicker. I think they take one this year. Jackson Maxon, who will draft Sauce Gardner, and is he the best player in this draft? I don't think Sauce is the best player. I love him. He's a 1st round pick, easy. He is a top 5-ish, 7, I can't remember which one it was for me, on my board this year. But I don't think he goes necessarily number 1. Here's the range. I think he's a top 10 lock, barring surprise, medical, or offensive stuff we don't know about. The Lions and Texans are dark horses. Detroit probably doesn't want to spend another top 2 pick, plus Amani Oruwariye and some other lesser drafted guys that actually played okay for them last year. Houston could. I think trench play is more important for them. I think he ends up in New York. Hot take, I know. The odds are in my favor. Jets at 4, Giants at 5 or 7, back to the Jets at 10. I bet he goes to one of those 4 picks. If he gets to 9, Seattle should be all over him, but I don't think he's getting out of the top 7 this year. I think he's going very early as cornerback 1 this season. Speaking of Sauce, what is your favorite one? Now, you can go a lot of different routes here. You can go like Tabasco, you can go hot, you could go just like a tomato sauce. Anything you can dip your food in is how I'm describing sauce that's not a soup. So ranch would qualify as a soup here, or as a sauce, excuse me. Let me know in the comments section. From Gage Rushing, rumors are that the Steelers wide receiver Deontay Jackson wants a $90 million 4 or 5 year deal. What should the Steelers do? If he takes the 95 or wants that, do it right now. It's under market $18 million. In general, when I see a report that is unclear on the year, I don't believe it, because there is a massive difference between a 4-year deal at 90 and a 5-year deal at 90. If it's the $18 million a year price tag, awesome. Let's right. If it's the $22.5 million a year, it's a little bit dicier. Maybe you try to gamble, see how he plays this year with a different QB at the helm. He is their number 1 receiver. No disrespect meant towards Chase Claypool, but if I'm the Steelers, if he does want $590, let's ride. I'm all in on that one. That is, I believe, a below-market deal right now. From Carson Wentz, who might trade for Andre Dillard, and what might the compensation look? Good question. I think we had the same question on Mailbag like 2 weeks ago, by the way. Make sure you guys are subbed. I think Seattle makes a lot of sense for Andre Dillard. Plug him in at left tackle, and then take someone to play on the right side in round 1 or go edge. I think that makes all the sense in the world for Seattle. I don't think a ton of other teams really need a left tackle right this second. Carolina, by the way, if they go QB in round 1, also makes a lot of sense. I'd say maybe a 3rd-ish, maybe a bit lower, since he's got 1 year left on his deal for Andre Dillard at this point.